Quinn. Oh, Quinn, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me? Sorry, my
Okay,
computer's being slow. There we go. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm good. You have a good weekend?
It was all right. I don't know if you heard, but I got an accident on Thursday.
Oh no. What
Yeah,
happened?
I got rear-ended. So,
Oh, sorry to hear that.
all good.
That's not
Nothing
fun.
major, just the car needs to get fixed and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So, had to work from
dang.
home.
Was it on the highway or?
No, it was in Scottsdale at 90th and Shea. Like
Okay.
I was stopped at the light. The light was green, but nobody was going from me. So I was
Yeah, yeah.
person behind me not paying attention, apparently was texting, dropped their phone. Like,
Classic.
good
Well,
times.
sorry to hear that. Hope the car gets taken care of. And glad you're all right.
So we gonna
So
talk.
I appreciate you taking the time. I wanted to excuse me. I wanted to kind of just get this on recording and then take some notes. I know you started to run through some of this, but just some of what your experience has been for incentive comp, specifically for really PM, supers, and actual laborers. Um, Maybe it's been one structure you've worked with in the past. Maybe there's been three, and if there's been three or more, like which one from your experience has worked well. Just kind of looking to get some information from you, in your experience. So,
Yeah, I've done several different ones, and I think it all depends, in my opinion, on the structure of the organization,
yep,
um, and like how the project flow occurs. So who does the bidding really needs to have some level of incentive, in my opinion, to bid that job properly. Um, all the way through to the laborer. So high level, we've generally done, we'll start at the low end. At crew level, we've generally had either a per job or a per crew dollar amount that was done either weekly or biweekly, depending upon the payroll structure of the company.
yep.
So whatever jobs they were, let's say it was weekly, just to make it easy, whatever jobs they were responsible for that week. Really, the main thing that most crews can control is labor,
Yep.
within some reasonable certainties. So did they or did they not achieve their labor budget for the week?
So question even with that, you say did they achieve their labor budget for the week? So let's say we have a 4 week long project. Each week is 10 hours just for easy math. With the model you're talking about, you would pay it out weekly based off
Okay.
the weekly budget, even if the project was over budget in total, or how does that work?
No, so it was all due on project completion.
Okay, okay, perfect. Just want to
So
clarify
if it
that.
was a 4 week long job,
Yep,
then the totality of that payout would be
perfect.
done upon project completion.
Okay, makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, so and it was done, it depends again on like you could go a million different directions on this,
Yeah,
but ideally we wanted to make it as granular and as easy as possible for the crew specifically, because generally you're dealing with labor people that are, you make something super complex, they're going to have difficulty understanding it.
totally,
And they
totally.
don't
Yep,
understand it, they're not going to go after it.
yep.
So we generally did a set dollar amount, regardless of how many jobs you had or the complexity of a job. It was you're responsible for, you and your four guys this week, to hit this labor budget. Um, and so
Like in your past, is that somebody on the admin team relaying that number on a weekly basis? Like, what does the actual logistical side of that look like?
in terms of the crew knowing where they stand,
Yeah,
or
like I mean, I have my idea of how it would be done, right? It'd be like at the beginning of the week, the let's say the PM is managing time, right? The PM has their sheets, their Aspire, whatever they're using, right? And then is relaying that to the teams. Is that,
yes.
yeah? Okay.
Yeah, the crew should know at a minimum weekly
Yeah.
what their labor budget is, if not daily. Like if you get to Aspire, it should be daily, because
Yep.
now you're not really having to do any micromanagement at that point.
Yep.
But So if I had a crew of five, let's say they all work 40 hours, right? So 5 times 4 is 200. I got 200 labor hours. Let's just use that because it's a round number.
Yep.
Um, is my budget for my team this week? Did I or did I not hit that number?
Yep.
Um, and
So let's say you hit it. Let's say we have budgeted 200 hours here in this example.
mhm,
Uh, let's say you come in at 180.
you're under budget, right?
Yep. So
So
then
if
where like I mean I understand you're paid out off of that. Are you but you said a fixed dollar amount? Like how
yeah, I've seen it
I mean,
done.
there's a couple different ways to skin the cat, right? But
Yeah, I've seen it done both ways where you get a percentage of the job profitability. Again, I personally think that creates a complexity at the laborer level that is just too hard to quantify.
yeah.
So if
Okay.
you are bidding a job, I don't care how big or small it is, you can come to some level of reasonable certainty of how much you should have at a crew level um, on a weekly basis. So if that number is whatever, let's say you should make $500 per crew per week if you do all your jobs and you hit your budget and you have 5 crews, that's
Yep.
$100 a crew.
Yeah.
Like you just do the simple math.
Yep.
Um, and that way it's not, if you hit your labor, you get a percentage of this other number over here that you may or may not have visibility to.
Yeah.
Um, it's if I hit my labor this week, I get $100. It's
Yeah.
like that simple.
Well, and honestly, Joe, that's why I want to meet with you because you said it, and then Evan also said it, and so uh, I'll be the first to admit I think I was just wrong, and I think keeping it simple is better here, and so that's why I wanted to pick your brain because I
At that
think just focusing on the labor would make it easy, have that the crew will understand, and then it's also easier from an admin perspective, which was kind of what Evan had brought up. So
now, as you scale up the organization, you can add complexity, but at the
yeah,
lowest level, the simpler the better. If I
yeah,
hit my
okay,
labor, $100. If I didn't hit my labor, $0.
yep,
Um, or maybe you come up with some kind of, if it was an approved overage for some reason that was outside of their control, then
yep,
there's some kind
yeah,
of
I get there's always going to be one-offs.
but generally speaking, 99% of the time, if you got 200 hours to spend this week and you hit 180, you're going to get $100.
Yep,
Now, I do think there's a point of no return there. If they're supposed to use 200 hours, and unless there's a weather-related issue, a job cancellation, they shouldn't come in at 100 hours. Like they didn't do
totally,
the job
totally, yeah,
at
right,
that point.
right.
So, um,
So, and one thing you brought up that's interesting to me, because I've heard this described a couple different ways. You actually opened the call with this, saying you want the bidder to have some sort of reward.
I want the bidder
So,
to have a reward and
can you elaborate on that? Because
yeah.
yeah, I've seen it run both ways, but it's interesting because I totally agree with that. But then also, how are you? A lot of times, like the sales and estimating is very similar, the same, and so we're paying out a flat rate of the job, and so that like, how do you marry those two? I guess because that.
Yeah, so we tested like 3 or 4 different models at several different companies because we
Mhm.
had small companies that were bidding out, $500,000 jobs, and then we had small companies that were doing, they're bidding out like a school that's going to be 10 grand or something,
Yep,
and
yep,
everything in between. So we ultimately set on or landed on a commission structure, is probably the easiest way to put it.
mhm,
There was percentage based. If I recall correctly, we tried several different ones, and the best number we landed on was 20% of profitability after job completion.
okay. And this is the individual selling the job.
Yes.
So fascinating. Okay. And I don't disagree with it.
Yeah, so salesperson, whoever that is, 20% of profit upon job completion. So
Yeah.
you don't get paid till I get paid.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. And so do you have
and
like a draw for the first couple months then?
Yeah, I mean, generally how we did it, there was a base salary that you're going to earn. It's generally, a low end of that
Yep.
spectrum, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I believe we gave them a mileage stipend because they're going to drive around to pitch
Yep.
these jobs and all that. So we gave them a mileage stipend. We obviously cover like their cell phone, like so we gave them like a $50 a month reimbursement for the cell phone.
Yep.
And then
You
Good.
Do you know how much the average person made in sales with this kind of model?
Pre
And I
or
know that's, what was that?
pre or post
So
finances?
include like what after you're done, let's say on a 12-month rolling basis, you're hitting the ground running with this 20%.
85-ish.
Yeah, see, and so that's what's fascinating to me because
Top ends were making like 120, but like the average person was probably about 85.
yeah, and so yeah, this is so interesting. So with Daniel, I don't know if you know this, but he's got just a flat 5% of the job. Yeah. It used to be 3.5, then it was 4.
Contract
He's upped
number,
it. Yeah.
not
Um,
profit.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, dude, his one of his guys made like 350 last year. But he's also an insane market, so he just marks this stuff up like crazy, right? So but that I don't like to use that as rationale though.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. In
but
the
yeah,
end, I mean, you could still give them the capability to earn that level, but
yeah,
ultimately, we're trying to drive profit as fast as we
yeah.
could, right? Because we
Well, and we
so
can't incentivize a profit if we don't know what the
that
profit is on the jobs. So that's why he's got a flat rate right now. But yeah,
do.
think of where he's been historically. He
Yeah.
hasn't known. So yeah, feel
True.
free to disagree.
I
It's,
mean, I think you have to like kind of not try to not know what your average margins are
but
on a
they
particular type of job.
they don't. It's crazy.
They're just not trying to know is
Oh
the
no,
problem, you know?
I know. Trust me, I've been trying to get this for 11 months since I
Even
started
if it's
working with him.
raw, I think
So
it's between 22 and 40%. Like even if it's a range,
yeah,
you're gonna know if you're making 10% per job or 50% per job or somewhere
yeah,
in between. You're
yeah,
gonna have a rough number, and that number should help you drive decision making on how do I pay out that out.
yeah,
I,
totally.
I flatly disagreed with the operating company presidents that wanted a per contract value at sales. I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
Because they were like, well, why not? I go, because you're just totally paying on the highest level of dollar amount, whether or not we actually make money and whether or not that job ever gets finished.
yeah,
Because of our contracts, I think it was a 90-day for some it was 6 month, like kind of phase out period, because all of our construction came with maintenance. So
yeah.
if we
I
did get done,
guess so
we paid
because
you.
I'm a
So
big believer that, and I understand there's a little bit of this in there, but I'm a big believer of really rewarding what you can control. And so I don't disagree that whoever is bidding a job absolutely is going to influence what a job comes in at, but they also don't have control over the actual time and materials. Let's say somebody misorders something, blah, blah, blah. The crews work longer. And so how I've historically seen it done, and this is why I think your perspective is so interesting and I want to hear more of it, um, is they're out estimating a job. They can't go below a certain amount, right? Like there's a floor for what they can bid a job at to maintain X amount of profitability.
mhm.
And so, but then on that model, you're not tying in what a job comes in at. So do you still disagree with that model? You still favor yours?
I agree with that. Like you have to achieve whatever, and I think that's where you have to use some level of historical averages.
Totally. I totally agree. Yeah. Like
If
your
you're at
floor on this
10%, they don't
product
want to
line
pay
is
10,
X.
right?
Like you can't go below that without manager approval is essentially
Yeah.
the talk track.
Now, I mean, we want to set a floor and a ceiling, probably, if you're going to go
Mhm.
with that model, like don't go below then. And if you go higher than X, you get some kind of extra,
Yeah.
like, because then you're really rewarding them to achieve
Upsell.
something that's higher level.
Yeah.
Or maybe they get an extra add-on if there is a second job sold to the same
Yeah.
customer or something like that. They get like a referral bonus or something.
Yep.
Um, so all of
Yeah.
those things I think are true.
Okay.
And then again, depending on the organizational structure, a lot of companies I've seen the salesperson is also the estimator, and I've seen it
Yeah.
be
Right.
favorable. So
Yeah.
it
Do you have
depends.
a preference on what or historically what have you seen work best? Because I've also seen both models and
I've seen it be the same. Yeah.
yeah.
The- I've seen it both ways, but like in terms of my opinion of what works best,
Yeah.
it's best if the salesperson is also the estimator, because if you're going to sell something, like you should know how to estimate that job.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like how are you ever going to have that conversation with a client or a
Yeah.
potential client?
Yep.
So you have to have some some understanding and some
Yeah.
training on that. So I think it should be the same. And then you also, as a salesperson who also estimates, you get to quote unquote double dip on the commission. You're going to get
Yep.
paid on the sale, and then you're going to get paid on the bid profitability. So you get kind
Yep.
of two opportunities to earn a commission per client.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Yeah. What's interesting is, so just swinging back a little bit to the talking about paying out $100 a week based off budgeted hours. Let's just say that's the case. The budgeted hours is not something I feel confident in with them yet. So
Okay.
it's interesting. Like I don't trust their bidding process. And I think I told you I wanted to revisit that. But
Yeah.
to your point, right, if we are budgeting a crazy amount and just shooting for the moon, we're always going to come in under budget and they're always going to get the money because on the front end it's broken. So
I don't, but that will also, is this just my opinion,
mhm.
create a pain point that will force a change. So like you gotta like draw the line in the sand, put your stake in the ground, whatever analogy you want to use
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yep.
in order for
I agree
something
with that. Yeah.
layered to get fixed. You almost have to create a pain point that forces a change.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that.
so if we go to Daniel and say, how many crews you got? I got 10. We're gonna pay them $100 a week if they hit their budget. So that's $1,000 coming out of your bank account every time you do payroll.
Yep.
Unless you fix your bidding process, there's all of a sudden a little bit more of an incentive to go figure out why
Yeah.
they're budgeting.
That's interesting. I like that. I've never thought of creating a pain point where the pain point is actually you're wasting money. So
I mean, I don't like advertise that, but
no, I know. But
Daniel,
I think it's kind of genius, especially because he has money. But
yeah, Daniel doesn't mind spending money. That's the
yeah,
good news, right?
yeah,
So almost use that to your advantage.
yeah.
We're
I
trying
like
to
that.
get them to bid things better to ultimately drive a margin higher
Yep.
and have some capability of having metrics that then, Evan and whomever on the ops side can have accountability level conversations with people who are under or overperforming,
Yeah.
who to promote and who to needs to go or
Yep.
get coached up or
Yeah.
coached out.
I hear you.
And if everybody's under, like then the ceiling's too low. We need to raise the ceiling.
Yep.
If no one ever makes money, then then the floor is too low, and
Yep.
we're just in
Yep.
the basement somewhere.
Yeah. I hear you. So I appreciate this. This was very helpful. One last question I have is let's use the $100 as an example. I know in my mind, like, yeah, you could run numbers all day and see kind of where it makes sense. Did you ever, I guess, yeah, the $100 just seems so arbitrary to me because I don't know where it came from. But do you ever pay out a percentage of what, let's say we budget 100 hours, we come in at 90 hours, we save 10%. Do you ever pay out off of a percentage like that? Or have
Crew,
you, yeah,
we tried it, and it was
too
they got
messy?
money, but they didn't understand the why they were getting the money. So like, oh, I
Okay.
got an extra $100 this week, but they had no idea how to put the two dots together.
Yeah.
With the $100 labor, it was like, and we tracked it because we were using Aspire. So it
Yep.
was on your board every day. You came in yesterday, you were over by 8 hours, and it's Tuesday. I got 4 days to make 8 hours up, and
Yep.
I get $100. Like
Yep.
you are
Okay. I like that.
conditioned with that to
And
daily.
now, yeah, just thinking through all the things that could go wrong, trying to protect the business, of course. Let's say somebody only works 30 hours on a 40-hour basis. Are you then taking 75, like, are you prorating that $100, I would assume? Again, not to confuse things, but
I guess you could. At the end,
like
the
then
way
are people going to say, well, he only
I
worked 30
it
hours
is
this week. He also gets a
possible.
$100 bonus.
Yeah, we looked at it as if a crew is should work 5 days a week, and we're
Yep.
only giving them 3 days worth of work, that's not a crew problem.
Okay, that's fair.
Why sacrifice their capability for our shortcomings? Like we need to
Yeah.
go get more work if that's the
Yep.
case,
Yep.
right?
Okay. I like that. It's a good mentality.
Give them the ability to control what they can control, and their ability to earn income is 100% relatable to things that they can control.
Yep. Okay.
The obvious, exception at rule is weather. Um, if there was a massive snowstorm and their jobs completely changed or their labor completely changed, then you might have to reevaluate that. But
Yep.
if you're looking at 40 to 45 weeks a year, you're not having that problem. That's a long consistency that you can
Yep.
say they can control when I give them a job, how, Do they or do they not come in on budget? If the wrong
Yep.
materials are at the job site, that's not a crew problem. I'm not going to hold them accountable
Yeah.
for whoever ordered the materials should get accountable for that. And we incentivized every role. Like everything had a very low base salary and was incentivized 100% based on what they controlled from job offering to job completion and ultimately even at the AR level collection. They got a low salary and a percentage of their collections. Like everyone was incentivized on the behavior that they could control 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Interesting. Yeah. No, I love it. With so one last question actually just was sparked off of that. Let's say we run with $100 here. Yeah, have you built something into Aspire before that's easy to pull in terms of like actually looking at that?
yes. And so that would be easy once they're fully in there and the labor is being tracked. You can actually you can create a dashboard or a scoreboard, whatever you want to call it, that is
Yep.
literally a humongous visual. And we went and bought $100 TV and put it in the shop, like a big one, like a 50-inch screen, and just had that thing where it was being updated every day. And what it would do is it would show every crew leader's name
Yep.
and like the status bar, green, yellow, or red,
Yep.
every single day. Like every job, it's getting updated. So in the morning, the little kickoff 5-minute safety huddle type thing that they're having, you have
Hmm.
it in front of that TV. You talk about it the first few times. After that, you don't talk about it again because everybody knows what it says.
Yep.
And there's like this instinctual competition of I'm yellow, but Quinn's crew's green. Like, guys, we got to go faster. I want my
Yeah.
100 crews this week.
Yeah.
Um, we also tested, and I'll tell you, it went over very well. It was a pain in the ass on the payroll side, but the crews loved it. The $100 we paid them in cash.
Interesting.
So on the following Monday, when they showed back up on Monday, assuming they hit let's say there's 10 crews and 8 of the 10 got there was $800 bills that the boss at the Monday meeting, which is also just happened to be like the big safety huddle, so it was a little bit longer, was
Yep.
handing out $100 bills physically to people's hands.
That's crazy.
You had to go backwards on payroll and say you paid that out and
Right,
then
right, right, right.
from a tax standpoint. So like the
Yeah.
payroll people didn't like it, but we didn't care
Yeah.
because the two people there was like, I want my money where it was mine. You didn't
Yep.
hit blood budget last week. Do it
Yeah.
and get yours next week. They
Yeah.
just they love that so much better than it showing up direct deposit on their account. Like
Yep.
it was instant. We saw a result.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Honestly, I kind of plan on just copying this for now. So as long
So
as we can get budgeted hours and then actual, which will be the biggest what if here. So
the other thing that may or may not want to think through is
mhm.
the levels that are immediately above the crew.
Yep.
So that's superintendent or supervisor, whatever they call them, the people that oversee the crews. There's generally more than one.
Yep.
I don't know how many Daniel has in that role. Um, Most of ours was between 2 and 6, just depending on the size of what they were doing.
Yep.
So how we did it was we looked at on a high end, what should we be making per crew per week? And $100 of that went to the crew. So we allocated that. And then in most cases, it came out to be between 150 and $200 is what like we could give out realistically and not destroy ourselves. So the difference there got split up into the next two roles of the organization. So how we had it was we had crews that would report up to supervisors, like field supervisors is what we called them. They generally oversaw anywhere from 3 to 8 crews each, just depending on how big those crews were.
Yep.
And you would have 2 to 6 of them. And then you had one like general manager person that oversaw those. So you would have for, let's say, let's use round numbers, 5 crews, there's one supervisor and there's the
Yep.
high level GM, right?
Yep.
So if you had $200 to spend out, $100 goes to the crew, $50 would get split between those next two people.
Yep.
If I'm a field supervisor and I have 4 crews and I have the opportunity to earn $50 per crew if they hit their labor budget, my actual earnings is $200 that week that I could earn if all 4 of my crews hit labor budget.
Yep. Okay.
And if I'm the GM and I got 10 crews totality, I can make $50 per crew. I can now make $500 this week if all of my crews hit budget. Everybody's now perfectly aligned with the thing that is the easiest to control and also drives the most profit.
I love it. Makes a lot of sense. And it's very
Super simple
simple.
to track, especially when you're on a spar.
Yeah. Okay. This is great. Yeah, and so Daniel, right, he's got his crews. He has a crew lead a lot of
Yeah.
times, and then there's the PMs. So that's general structure.
I mean, that makes it easy. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not $50. That's just what we had. Maybe
Right,
it's
right, right.
$25 is per crew
Yeah.
is what the person could get. Like whatever the number is, they're going to have a smaller number because they have more people, more crews
Hmm.
that they see.
Yep.
But if you align their
Should
incentive,
come out larger. Yeah.
like you're going to get
Yeah,
your
I hear you.
overlap, a payout, and they're all going to be perfectly aligned. And that's ultimately how you drive result.
Okay. This is very good. I like it a lot. I
It
appreciate it.
sounds simple, but like I'm telling you, the cruise, you put $100 bill in somebody's hand in front of their peers
Yep.
and watch how fast the peers work this week.
Yeah.
It's bananas crazy how it's just
Yep.
like an instant light switch. And there's very few light switch things in landscaping specifically.
Yep.
This is one of those.
Okay.
Money. They love cash.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, I like money too. I don't care if it's cash in my hand or cash in the
Right.
bank account. I
Yeah.
personally don't care because it's
Yeah.
money either way. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, those people that work in that role, like
Hmm.
they just
It's
like cash
different.
better
Yeah.
than money. I don't know why, they just do.
Yep.
And so because of that, yeah, make decisions based on it.
Yep. I love it. Okay. Um, I'm gonna run with this.
Mm,
See what I
you
can
go.
spin out.
I
So
think the sales and the estimator ones maybe a little bit more of a longer conversation because
I totally agree. Yeah. I don't want to get into that. I'm trying to
yeah,
meet
tackle the other
expectations here a little bit. And
because let's get
it's
them on
easy. Let's roll it out. I just
easier.
needed to get a better understanding of okay, what is because I know loosely, but crew lead, how many crews or PMs man it, like just getting a in writing expectation of everything because we've
Mhm.
talked about it, but things can jump around a little bit with that business. So
And if, this isn't making sense, you want me to talk to Daniel about it, explain what we've done in the past, the other three kinds that we tried that didn't work and why we landed on this one, I'd be happy to do that.
okay, okay, good to know. Yeah, and I mean, well, I'll speak to him a little bit about it because he's asked, right? And I actually initially told him that I wanted to roll out, sorry, I'm getting a phone call, to roll out the based off job profitability. But I have no problem going back and saying, look, I talked with Joe. Joe's done that. Just became a lot on the admin side, and this is easy. And I think Daniel wants easy too. So I think it's an
As
easy talk track.
long as it's not breaking the bank. And I
Totally.
doubt hundred
Totally.
dollars per crew is gonna break the bank for Daniel. If it is, like, we don't understand his finances very well. So
Yeah.
I doubt it. And watch, $100 more a week, that's $400 a month that a crew could earn. Like they're gonna jump over people to
Yeah. But that's
help
per crew
stop taking
member.
breaks. So stop hitting the gas station after they leave the yard every morning.
Yeah. That's per crew
Cycle to
member
our
though, right,
days
Joe?
earlier day. Like it's amazing what happens.
Yeah. That's per crew member though, Joe, right? I'm like,
The $100.
yeah.
So we did it. That was crew leader only. So if there's a crew of five, there's generally a leader of that five people.
Yep.
That's a person that got the $100. We did crew of the week for the
Okay.
rest of the crew. Um, so basically you had to hit your labor budget to get qualified.
Yep.
And then depending on the size of the company, there's at least one, if not more than one. But it
So
wasn't
crew
just
leads getting 100 a week. What do the actual, is there anything for the actual crew members?
so we did it based on what else did we want? Because we thought our opinion was this. The crew leader can drive the labor. Like, let's
Hmm.
go, guys, speed it
Yep.
up. We need to
Yep.
get out of here. Like they
Yep.
can drive that behavior. The crews, we ultimately need them to do their job and we need them to do it safely, efficiently, and cleanly. So like how do we incentivize them for the behavior we want them to do? Was what way we looked at it.
Yep.
So let's say
So
there's 10
rework.
crews, and of the 10, 8 out of the 10 hit their labor last week. So those 8 crews are qualified. Of the 8, whoever the supervisors are, gets to pick their favorite crew, whatever you want to call it. Like it needs to be something that's metrically done, so this is
Yep.
not just their favorite
Favorites. Yeah.
every week, right? We did it off of a safety score um that was read out weekly because in Aspire you can get some safety level metrics, and we also had telematics data for driving that we put together.
Mm,
And then we also did it based on the truck itself cleanliness. So twice a week, their truck would get checked by their supervisor, and the cleanest, they would rate it. Like, is it clean on the inside? Has it been washed? Is all the equipment put up? Is the lawnmowers refilled? Like there was like a checklist that they have to do,
yep.
and that tally, that score would also be added into the safety part. And it was
Okay.
kind of like of the three different things, evenly weighted who was the best crew.
Yeah.
And
So
those, they got $50 each. If you were the crew of the week, every member of the crew got $50, including the crew leader. So that
okay.
was on top of the labor thing. That was separate.
Yeah. I guess my only issue with that is thinking of what if you have two crews that they just really both just crushed it and killed it? And I feel like this would not be uncommon, right? Because everybody's trying to compete.
Well,
And then the second team barely misses. And so they just get
yeah.
nothing then.
I mean, this one was a little bit more arbitrary in that you need to have at least one winner every week. Like even if everybody kind of sucked, you still
Yeah.
need to recruit someone who sucked the least.
Yeah.
Um, but if there is a week, and we got to this at several different companies where most of the crews were hitting labor budget every week. Most of the crews were doing pretty good on their safety scores.
Yep.
Most of the crews kept so then it was like we would reward more than one. Um, we kind of like capped it out. We didn't want them giving, because if there's 5 people per crew, they all get $50. That's $250. If you give that away to 5 crews, like
Yep.
you're now a
Yeah, it
thousand.
starts to add up. Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
can add up really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, but we would many times more than one crew would get it. But
Okay.
that's what the crew members, so we called them crew members and a crew leader
Yep.
is how we phrased it. The crew members could earn $50 if they had to achieve labor budget, or it didn't matter how clean your truck was, you went over
Yeah.
budget.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Once they did that, how did they perform compared to their peers?
Yeah.
And that drove the behavior of they pull in the yard, they're all generally parking the truck next to each other. They're looking at their neighbor's truck. How clean is that truck? Oh, it's pretty clean. I need to clean a little more. There's a
Yeah.
piece of trash in there. I think I'm good. Like there was that instinctual like competitiveness that we were just attempting to drive without like amplifying it or saying it out loud, but it just naturally happens. You're going to compare yourself to the person next to you, especially if it's very easily visible. Like, is the truck clean?
Yep.
Right there.
Okay.
Go look.
Yeah,
Um,
and I like it. I'm just thinking about with Daniel how we would track. Let's just say, for argument's sake, we went with safely, efficiently, and clean. I think the clean is easy, right? Because you have somebody checking in on them.
yeah. So you can do it
This,
this way. Some of our incoming companies that we were in the process of integrating the telematics data for driving, and we
yep,
didn't quite have the data yet, we would just strictly do it off of PPE. So um, they needed to show up with their PPE, and they would also be randomly checked. Their site supervisors should be checking on them throughout the week and going physically to the site. So if they're on a weed eater, they should be wearing a vest, a helmet, eye goggles, and gloves and boots. Do they have all 5 pieces of those PPEs? If they only have 4 of the 5, they get 80%. Like there's some kind of a checklist that's being done, and all of that's tallied up at the end of the week until you get the data, and it makes
yeah,
it faster and easier. You can still track something that is ultimately creating a safety culture, which prevents accidents and is good for OSHA and everything else.
yep, yep. Okay,
You have to
I
be
like that.
super careful with how you phrase that, though. Technically, to OSHA, you cannot bonus someone for being safe.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know.
But you can get around it if it is just one of the ways that they earn bonus. It can't be the only reason they earn a bonus.
Okay, okay, that's very good to know. That cleanliness. Okay, I like that. Okay, anything else? This was very helpful. So
So much. In
I
terms of
know.
initial
I wish you
thoughts.
could just give it to me, you know?
Yeah, boom. I would say like those are probably the easiest things to implement and
Yeah.
easiest for the like the crew levels to understand this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, this is what you get out of it.
Yep.
So in my opinion is the easiest to implement. As you get into some of the other roles and responsibilities of the organization, it's a little bit more difficult. And especially until you have the software fully integrated and you have the capability to pull and extract data.
Yep.
Um, this one's super easy. Like even today, they have got to know how many hours they're supposed to be using this week. They just that has to live somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on an Excel sheet. It lives somewhere. So
Yeah.
like it should be fairly easy to implement, and $100 per crew or per crew leader is simplistic to add up, simplistic for them to understand, easy to track, easy to measure, and it also drives behavior change. So like it's a win.
Yep. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna roll with this. Minor tweaks. We'll get this going.
You got
Appreciate it.
to,
Okay.
yeah. Feel
Um,
free to add another time for us to talk through more like the sales and the estimating. I've got plenty of ideas, and there's like 4 different models on that one because it was very different on if it was a heavy construction um, company than one that was more heavy maintenance and did
yep.
just a little bit of construct. Like it was substantially different in terms of how we
Yeah,
incentivize.
and that's what we're missing too is yeah, it's crazy. I've walked through what his margin should be like by job type, but when you look at number, it's all different. And so that's one thing that's been frustrating for me. And I, ideally, right, I want to be looking at numbers in Aspire. I know we're getting there, but
They ultimately decide not to do that AI system,
yeah, so my understanding is they're still using
accelerator, whatever it's called.
well, like, because I just asked Daniel like 2 weeks ago, how are you guys starting to bid these snow jobs? And he was like, we're still using Google Maps. So yeah, so
Yeah,
that's where
because
we're at.
I don't know. That's so easy to do after the fact. Like I created the estimate, and now just go ahead and pull Google Map and test it real fast.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I would be strong, hard and fast against they gotta use some kind of system. I don't care what system it is, but
yeah,
something that creates a structure where if there's 4 different people bidding the job, they all go to the same job site in 4 different days. They should all come in pretty dang close to each other in terms of dollar amount, hours, and
yeah.
materials. And if
Well,
they're
so that's my under. I mean, I totally agree, and I do think we have substantial issues in other areas. But with snow, with the Google Maps as an example, is they're literally taking the square footage of like a driveway and
not,
then creating the contract value based off of that.
I mean, that I'm okay with.
Yeah,
Mm,
and I am too. But I totally agree when we get to other services, a lot of
yeah.
issues. So
I mean, the bulk of his revenue, correct me if I'm wrong, is coming from pretty large construction jobs that are a little bit more complex than just snow in a driveway.
yeah, so it's been interesting. I'm still figuring it out, but I what I've seen is a lot of smaller jobs, honestly. So no, he's not doing
Snow
$8 million off of
season or in the warm
$1,000
season?
jobs in during the normal season.
In,
So his snow
interesting.
contracts are small. They're like I think we talked about this. I think like $2,000 $2,500 for 5 months. So
But he said he had like the capability to upcharge them on kind of everything,
yeah,
which is fine.
yep,
Um, that's the route he wants to go. It's probably, I mean, who's gonna bitch unless the driveway doesn't get
right,
de-snowed? Who's
yeah,
gonna really complain
yeah,
on that? There's pretty low barrier of entry on that, so it's probably okay.
yeah.
But that
Okay.
becomes hard to incentivize a salesperson because especially if you're doing it on contract value, it's only $2,000 that they're getting a percentage off of. When in reality, you might, invoice that client 10 grand because you had all these upcharges.
Yep.
So the
Yeah,
salesperson is actually
that's a
getting
good
the
point.
check in that particular example.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're doing too bad with what I've seen, but
Well, yeah, 350 grand is pretty good. Like,
yeah, that was the best performer, but still. So
I bid jobs all day long
yeah.
on these
Oh,
people.
dude, that's why I see those numbers. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna move there. So
I wouldn't live in Utah. That's
yeah, I know, same, but
yeah,
it's worth a dollar amount.
exactly.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. And I'm sorry, I do have to jump because I'm a little late to another call, but
No
it's
worries, man.
internal. So
Sorry I'm
I
running
appreciate
over.
it, Joe.
No worries,
No,
buddy.
no, it was good. It was great. I stayed for a reason. I was enjoying it. So thanks,
Awesome.
man.
See you, dude.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.